Monday, May 17th, the moon is in Cancer at the early hours of the day. It is going to go void, of course, around 3:30 a.m., again, Atlantic Standard Time, and will not be locking in to Leo energy until about 9:45 a.m. So we're definitely starting the day off with a little bit of a shift. We are going to come out of that very kind of closed off, very reserved, very highly emotional energy that the moon in Cancer always provides us with. And then, of course, we get a blast of energy when we move into this Leo energy. It's a fire sign. It is the heart and soul of the zodiac. It is when we want to lighten the mood, bring some playful energy back in. It is when we focus on what it is that our heart wants. So we have 6 moon aspects taking place here today. Couple interesting things that I want to point out about this though. Before the moon actually locks into Leo, it makes a couple of aspects while still in Cancer. So the moon in Cancer will be sextiling the sun in Taurus. It's important to note here that this is the last week of Taurus. These are the final days of Taurus season. And so as we've been exploring, anytime we're coming to an end in a particular energy, the volume gets turned up. We reach a crisis point. We want to wrap things up. We want to learn our lessons. We want to get on with the show. So the moon in Cancer, sextiling, which is a good aspect, is blending its energies with the sun in Taurus. We're a little bit sensitive, right? That's to be expected, but we're sensitive when it comes to thinking about the changes that we have to make to our physical realities. We have been contemplating switching things up in our routine, in our relationships, in our money matters, in what it is that we're actually planning for. And we, since the new moon in Taurus, have been a little bit hesitant to go ahead and actually start taking action and initiating the physical energy needed in order to actually see our intentions manifest in this physical realm. So the moon kind of puts a little glimmer on this particular fear, on this particular doubt, insecurity, if we will. Yes, it is a positive aspect, but it is a positive aspect illuminating for us where it is that we're still kind of stuck in a rut and where it is that change is absolutely 100% necessary. Now, what makes things even more interesting is that the moon is going to oppose Pluto. Pluto does make an appearance a couple of times this week for a very important reason. Pluto, may I remind you, still in Capricorn, but now in a retrograde, doing the inner healing work that we need to put a certain death, ending, closure to old narratives, to old actions, to old behaviors. Especially where recognizing our fears, our insecurities, our vulnerabilities are concerned, where it is that we have given our power away to the different narratives that we and ourselves have created for ourselves. Again, we are our own worst enemies. Most of the suffering that takes place in our lives happens in our minds, in our brains, in our narratives, not actually in our physical realities. And this is going to be highlighted. The moon opposing Pluto wants to really open our hypersensitive selves up to recognizing where it is that we need to gain or regain our power, where it is that, yes, a transformation is happening in our heart space and in our head space, in our soul space, prior to the physical transformation taking place in our physical realms. It has to happen inside of us first. And so the insecurities and the fears and the vulnerabilities that are coming up underneath this aspect are very much our emotional securities versus our financial securities. Finances are a big deal for a lot of people right now, of course, right? But emotional security is being triggered and masked. I feel like most people are very open to talk about their fears and their insecurities when it comes to their financial life and their financial plan, but most of us wear a very thick, hard, cold mask when it comes to our emotional insecurities. And that has a lot of play. It has a lot of topics and themes pinging off the home life versus the career life, the roles and responsibilities that are required from us in our home life, in our family dynamic versus what is required of us in our careers, in our reputations, in order to lock in that financial security. So the topics and themes are going to come up very loud right before the moon switches into Leo energy. So when the moon switches into Leo, 9:45 a.m., again, Atlantic Standard Time, it will be making an aspect with Jupiter. And again, Jupiter fresh into Piscean energy right now. Now, this is big because anytime Jupiter is involved, Jupiter is a magnifying glass. He over exaggerates. He puts a lot of pressure, a lot of emphasis on whatever aspect is being highlighted. And we really have to watch our egoic reactions to what happens in the run of the day when Jupiter is on point, because typically speaking, it's not as big of a deal as we tend to feel that it is in that moment. So we can expect big emotions, right? We have the moon in Leo, which is big anyways. It's a fire energy. It's the entertainer of the zodiac. It's the heart and soul of the zodiac. We want attention. We can actually be overly attention seeking with Jupiter coming into play. Our emotions can feel way bigger than they actually are. Our thoughts, our mental planes can feel more confused than it actually is. We can get overwhelmed with this particular influence. We want to watch out for that. The moon in Leo also makes an aspect with Mercury. Of course, Mercury in its place of power in Gemini, working overtime, right? That's why our mental planes are all over the place. We're scattered, we're torn, we can't complete a thought, we're having a hard time making words coming out of our mouth make sense. And this is only going to add to the overemphasis, the over-exaggeration of the energy of the day. So there's big moods, there's big thoughts, there's big time confusion. And a lot of this in this current purge stage is supposed to be confusing. We are only supposed to be granted these, very minimal windows of clarity that boost us up out of the confusion and the darkness and the mental fog that is absolutely 100% needed in order for us to figure out our way, how we feel about it. So we can expect that things get overly large for the bulk of the day. Now, outside of the moon's energy, we have the sun making an aspect with Chiron, keeping in mind that the sun very, very much still rooted in Tauran energy, but trying to wrap up the life lessons here before Gemini season takes over. And Chiron, of course, the wounded healer planetoid, illuminating for us what it is that we are healing from. We are going to have an aspect here because the sun will be trining Pluto as well. And of course, Pluto is power and control inside of us, recognizing where exterior influences are pressurizing us to make a huge transformation in our realm. And so with the sun making an aspect with Chiron at the same time of making an aspect with Pluto, there is going to be a huge illumination on where power and control has been lost within ourselves. And it's going to put a huge illumination on the fears and insecurities that Chiron wants to expose to us so that we can get on with it. We can get on to the healing process. We can get on with correcting this behavior in our mental plane and in our heart space, responding to old paradigms, old structures, old restrictions, old soul contracts, old relationships. The old must die. And this is an aspect that is going to help illuminate for us what it is that we're still struggling to let go of. The last thing that I want to talk about here today is Venus conjunct the true node. Venus is in Gemini. The true node is in Gemini. This is Venus sitting next to a destiny point, having a conversation about love and money and what it is we need to learn in order to adopt new ways of doing things. And of course, aligning with our future vision for our reality, recognizing, first and foremost, what it is that we don't want to be experiencing anymore here in this now moment, recognizing the dream and the vision that we would like to move into. And of course, especially where love and money are concerned. Why? Because that's what Venus is all about. She's in Gemini right now, processing memories and old arguments and, insecurities and fear-based thinking when it comes to love and money. And love and money is about our own self-worth, our own self-value. That's how we figure out where it is that we're at in our healing journey, by recognizing that the relationships that we're engaged in, the money matters that we're engaged in, is a mirror, is a reflection of how it is that we actually feel about ourselves. And so this little conversation between Venus and the true node is going to be very revealing, especially with all the trigger points happening throughout the day. It's going to be very revealing of what it is that we need to be moving away from. And again, trying to get in alignment with, so that we can really start digging into our physical realms here and start rearranging, reorganizing, reevaluating the way that we are operating in our lives.